Welcome to Fact Schmacks, podcast that's good enough to get you a C.
Minus.
All right. We are going to start off today with a little game. Kevin has two things that are true that you would call maybe a fact, and one thing that is untrue that maybe I would call a schmacked. Let's hear it.
All right. So, first things first here. Fact or schmacked. In 1969, ironically not the Summer of Love.
Yeah.
That was 67. That's just a bonus fact.
Sure.
We go back to UCLA. And in UCLA, we have what could be considered the first internet connection between UCLA and Stanford. The first message sent was login, but it crashed after LO. So the first message sent over the internet, which at the time was called ARPANET, as it was a defense contract kind of thing, was LO. Low.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so there's... Hold on a sec. God damn it.
Yeah. And then... Sorry,
it's my dog.
Yeah, I realize that.
She stopped already. Okay, anyhow. Fact or schmacked, okay? Butterflies, while only having two eyes, can have anywhere from 2 to 12,000 lenses.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Because they've got those eyes that are like geodesic domes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
That's one of the facts there.
Okay.
And the biggest arms manufacturer in the world is Hasbro.
Huh.
So what do you think?
So the first one, I have heard that before, but I don't know how stingy you're gonna be here. Like, I know that it was LO, and then they sent it again. So technically, it was LOL was the first thing that got sent over the internet.
That's interesting. I guess that would have been, eh?
Yeah, and it was LOL Ogden.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that, but so I'm pretty sure that one's true. I've heard that before. Now, the second one seems plausible, and the third one seems so ridiculous that.
But I mean, how many times have you seen "Truth is stranger than fiction"?
For sure.
I mean, 12,000 lenses, Matt. Think how big a butterfly is.
I know. But things can be real small.
Think of how busy a butterfly optometrist is.
It's a good thing they don't need glasses.
Maybe they do.
Okay, so I'm going to say it's the Hasbro one because I feel like if I picked it and it wasn't true, I'd feel like the biggest dumb guy in the entire world. So I'm going to have to say the butterfly one is true.
All right.
Along with ARPANET, and I think the Hasbro thing is bullshit.
Okay, well, I guess you've passed, and I haven't thought about prizes, but, here we are. So that was our game. It's going to be a weekly feature.
That was great. That was just unbelievable enough.
Now, technically, Hasbro makes a lot of action figures, so it has made a lot of arms.
That's true.
So I'd be curious
if they've made more arms than anybody
else. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of
I don't think they've made more than God.
Oh, God. All right, moving along with the rest of the show.
Sorry. All right. Well, Kevin,
Matt,
today we're going to be
your real
talking. It definitely is.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about honey.
Honey,
my friend, but not the kind of honey that bees make. We're going to talk about molasses, which is kind of like honey, not really honey. We're talking about molasses. Molasses from.
Sorry, we are trying to generate viewers or listeners.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about like molasses from Cuba, which I think comes from like cane or something. Anyways. The year is 1915, my friend.
Well, we're going back.
We're going back. We're going back a bit.
The WWI. or one.
Well, that's exactly it. The war rages on, my friend. One thing that's used in weapons manufacturing is ethanol. And one way to make ethanol is from molasses. So there's this company in Boston, and they have a little molasses tank there. And they think, well, if we had a bigger molasses tank there, then we could make a lot more ethanol. We could make a lot more money. It's simple economics. Bigger tank, more molasses, more ethanol, more money.
That's kind of how my body works.
Yeah. So they built a big fuck off tank in the north end of Boston. When I say a big fuck off tank, this thing was 50 feet tall and 90 feet wide. It was roughly like, it was as high as a 5-story building. And then about twice as wide. It was a big tank. Could hold 2.5 million gallons of molasses.
It's not bad.
That's a lot of molasses. Built by a company called U.S. Industrial Alcohol is the parent company, but Purity Distilling Company is the sub company there. And they make ethanol in 1915 because guns are in real high demand. When the war ends, actually, they do a little switcheroo because Prohibition is just about to hit, and there's a huge demand for alcohol, people stocking up in case, we know Prohibition went into effect. So they switched to making alcohol. I don't know how much that plays into what's about to happen, but it is a thing. So 1915, war's going. Lord only knows how long this war is going to last, so there's like a little bit of pressure to get this thing done fast. They build this tank. When they are partway through building the tank, company orders like 800,000 pounds of molasses by boat from Cuba. So now there's two time pressures. You got the war going on. Who knows? Maybe they sign a deal tomorrow. They clearly don't. And you've also got this ship coming that's got all this molasses, and if you're paying those people to on the ship, so if the ship has to wait for your tank to be finished, it's going to cost you more money.
Kind of like today's shipping crisis that's going on.
Sure, yeah. You can't hold up shipping.
Yeah, you get a bit of a log jam, and all of a sudden prices go up.
Absolutely. So they certainly do not want that to happen. So by December of 1915, this tank is very near completion. This boat is almost there. They basically finish the tank right before the boat gets there. And you can't make that boat wait, you see. It's a problem. So you can't test the tank, because if you tested the tank, you just like filled it up with water or something to see, like God forbid you find a problem. But even just testing it takes time.
Right.
So, we built this thing. We know it works. Who cares? So they put 800,000 gallons of molasses in this bad boy. And immediately it starts creaking and groaning when they're filling it. And it's leaking immediately.
Not a good sign.
No, not a great sign. It was leaking so badly so obviously, that townsfolk would just walk up to the tank and take some honey.
Some of that sweet, good molasses for free.
Yeah, get me some of that good stuff
Give
for
me
the
some
low
of that
price
good.
Of free 99.
Free 99.
Free 99.
My favorite price.
So, kids would take sticks and they'd kind of like roll up some molasses there and have like a little molasses lollipop. It was a pretty good deal for everybody.
Is this the origin story of diabetes? Because mine sounds quite similar.
I mean, if you could get free molasses, you got to take what you can get.
Oh, absolutely.
In the world of 1915.
Yeah.
Company needs to put an end to that, though, because they're losing a little bit of molasses, and that's not cool. We can't have a leaking tank because it's making people feel like maybe it's not structurally sound, right? It's all bad things.
Yeah, not good for the contractor.
It's not good for anybody, right?
No.
So they've got a good solution here. They paint the tank brown so people can't tell where the molasses is leaking out. But I assure you that it is structural paint that they put on there.
Oh yeah, I've seen some of my contractor days.
Yeah, just to really shore things up. Just a nice thick coat of structural paint.
Sounds like they're getting into a real sticky situation.
Oh! We did it!
Is that the first part of the show? No.
Yes!
What about the arms thing? Kind of
Oh,
counts.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that counts.
We should have a pun ticker.
Yeah. For our audio medium, how's that going to work? Is it just me after the fact recording like...
Yeah, basically.
So, the war ends. This thing makes it 3 years, if you can believe it.
Okay.
The war ends in 1919, and so they shift from making, like I said, ethanol to alcohol because that's kind of a boom market right now, and you got this giant molasses tank, and what the hell else are you going to do with it? So we're going to jump ahead. We're going to go to January 15th, 1919.
Can I just put like a little summary of our intro there?
Yeah.
So we've got a company in Boston who made a big fuck-off tank to hold some molasses from Cuba, which they were bringing in for munitions.
Yes.
Okay. And then they shifted gears and said, holy shit, booze is going out of style. We got to make some booze.
Yes.
All right. I'd be curious to know what kind of munitions you would use molasses in, like a sticky bomb?
No, you can make ethanol with it, and that's you use ethanol to make gunpowder, I think.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So
it's all like ethanol. Like they just shifted the ethanol from munitions production to.
Yeah, I have to imagine though that it's a different way of making the ethanol, or like you're not making as concentrated ethanol. I would assume. I don't know. Yeah. I tried to look it up beforehand, but this is a C. I looked up distilling and fermenting and how different they were, and my eyes rolled to the back of my head. That's
yeah, the thing is that like America in World War I became a really big industrial power because they were basically an arms dealer.
Yeah.
I mean, they supplied so much munitions and stuff, and they got very wealthy off both wars. But World War I they didn't enter until end of 1917, 1918. Pretty much right at the end, they just kind of swept through.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Yes, we'll probably talk about that.
And that might also be where Hasbro got its start. May or may not. Really? I don't know.
Oh, you're just throwing it out there.
Maybe at one point
I gotta stop taking anything you say seriously. So, yeah, that's basically it. January 15th, 1919. The Spanish flu, incidentally, is like raging.
The Spanish were the first to fly?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. You going to make a Corona beer joke, too?
All right, sorry. Carry on.
So, a couple days before this, the tank is sitting there. It's about a third full of cool molasses, that sweet, sassy molasses. And then they get a ship in, and it's got 1.5 million gallons of warm molasses. So they add another 1.5 million gallons in. It's warm. They got about 2.3 million gallons in this tank, about 26 million pounds of molasses.
Wow.
So 12:30 p.m. on January 15th, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, no.
Quite literally. People said it sounded like machine guns when the rivets started just flying out of this tank. There was I think a 7-foot section of steel that crashed into a girder that was holding up an elevated railway. 26 million pounds of molasses flooded into the streets.
Amazing.
Well, it's called the Great Molasses Flood. Oh my god, a tidal wave. It knocks buildings off their foundations. It absolutely levels, like there's like a mill beside it or some pulp and paper places, some sort of like industrial factory right beside it. Just totally levels it. It's just splinters. Pushes buildings off their foundations, like carries cars, almost derailed a train. Just unbelievable stuff.
This kind of sounds like a 1950s B movie, like The Blob.
Yeah, it would have been kind of yeah, the Blob, but it's just one tidal wave that just gets released from the middle of a big city.
Wow.
Well, not quite the middle. It was on the harbor, but yeah. So, oh god, horses. A lot of horses eat it because there was a lot of horses around, and the horses get knocked over and they're stuck in molasses, and that's not great. And a lot of people also not it's not good for them. Total, death count and whatnot is 20 or 21 people died, 150 people were injured, and I don't think anybody ever got a tally of the horses.
Wow.
But I'm not laughing at horses dying. It's just it's one of those like whistling past the graveyard things where it's just so awful to think about. The molasses as it's traveling, because if you got like soup, right?
Right.
And you've got it in a bowl that's really hot, it's going to take a while for that to cool down. But if you just like drop that onto the floor, it would spread out, and in no time you'd have cool soup.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the most efficient way to. It is the most efficient way to cool your soup. It's maybe not the most appetizing way to cool your soup. It's kind of what happens there. It's warm, and so it's it's flowing really well. But as it expands, or as it gets less and less concentrated or dense, it starts cooling down faster and faster, and getting having less and less flow, and it's like
viscosity.
Which I think if something has low viscosity, it flows well, and high viscosity, it does not.
I should know the answer to this, but I believe it's lower viscosity is stiffer. I think. This is a C
stiffer,
plus,
right?
okay? I mean, this is
right.
C minus. Sorry, this is the difference between the C plus and the C minus.
Every once in a while, we elevate ourselves and we give you like a C plus. But
I mean, there was a bonus. There was a bonus fact earlier today. I don't remember what it was. I know there was one.
There was, yeah. So,
but now we're falling apart.
Yeah, but so it wasn't good. I'm going to give you a direct quote from the Boston Globe, just describing what it looked like. Molasses, waist deep, covered the streets and swirled and bubbled about the wreckage. Here and there struggled to form. Whether it was animal or human being was impossible to tell. Only an upheaval, a thrashing about in the sticky mass showed where any life was. Horses died like so many flies on sticky fly paper. The more they struggled, the deeper in the mess they were ensnared. Human beings, men and women, suffered likewise. It was a grisly scene.
Oh, nobody writes like that anymore.
No, that's got good, for sure. They had a way of talking about things back in the day that we just don't anymore.
No. Like only 10 people could read and write anyhow, and those 10 people were just top notch.
Yeah. They were really good at their craft. Yeah. They had no competition, so they got to write everything. So they got to get really good.
So Boston's had a tea party.
Yes.
Now they've had a molasses party. Where does the Boston cream come from? Is there like a custard incident? 1947 post-war custard explosion.
Nobody called this the Boston Molasses Party until right now when you just did it.
Well, there we go.
Cool your jets on that one. You gotta see your J's, man. The main danger to people who didn't were like I think there was a couple people who were in basements at the time and just flooded in and that was it for you. But there were people who were covered in the face area, and it covered their nostrils and their mouth. And so they're suffocating, not even being underwater. They're just covered. So that was the main priority, was getting molasses out of people's noses and mouths. So like in that context, it's probably pretty remarkable that only 20 people died directly. The 21 figure is one of the people who died, their son committed suicide a little bit after, and it's kind of like, well, it's from the strain of, suddenly losing his mother.
Well, that's not a good idea. That's unfortunate, If
It
you're ever
is.
feeling that way, seek help.
Absolutely.
Our PSA.
Absolutely. So 20 or 21 people, depending on how you want to look at that.
Now, sorry, I'm just curious. Are you aware in your research, did anybody try to eat their way out?
I do not believe so.
Like very Homer Simpson-esque, just, no, I can handle this.
There is one story. I don't know how true this is. This comes from a firefighter who showed up, and he says that when they showed up, they saw an arm sticking out of a pile of molasses, and him and a buddy started pulling on the arm, and they pulled and they pulled and they pulled, and I'll be goddamned if they didn't get that arm, but not the rest of the guy.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, that's traumatic. Jeez, can
That-
you imagine?
Oh, I think that sort of stuff happened in like Passchendaele when people were sinking into the mud.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it happens in war frequently, which is why I'm glad I've never had to experience that. And
But you don't expect that when
yeah, you would
you
think,
certainly
like,
don't.
not to be morbid, but you would think that a body would have to certainly at some point decay before that would happen. Like, is this immediately after the incident, or was this a couple days
I
later?
believe so. No, this is immediately after.
Wow, they must have
Yeah.
really been pulling on that arm.
Well, if you think the person's suffocating underneath, I guess
Yeah,
you dislocate an arm, and then once you dislocate it,
yeah.
just the tendons and
Boy, didn't this take a dark turn.
yeah. Sorry about that.
All right.
So, like I said, 21 people dead, 150 people injured, $100 million in damage in today's money. That's not in 1919 money. That would be like insane. But yeah, $100 million in damage. The rescue effort takes like forever while they're doing it because there's molasses everywhere. So like everywhere they're trying to get to rescue people, you're wading through like hip deep molasses in some cases because it didn't like. It would have stopped at a certain point. It would have gotten, so viscous that or so unviscous, whatever that is, that it would have just kind of frozen in place. Eventually, you're not quite in amber, but you're not in amber. So that makes, getting people out very difficult. The cleanup takes forever. They estimate 87,000 man-hours to get that shit cleaned up. They used salt water from the harbor, and they used sand to absorb it. The harbor was brown for months.
Really?
With all that molasses.
Huh. I wonder if
Yeah.
anybody took advantage of it and just like rocked some pancakes for a week. Like, I got the steadiest supply of molasses in my basement. Might as well take advantage of it. Do you put molasses on pancakes? I don't know. I've never tried it.
I don't know. I don't know that I've ever actually had molasses in my life.
I don't think I have either.
I probably have in something. It's probably been an ingredient in a ton of things.
Oh,
I've had,
absolutely. I've been referred to as Slo's molasses.
but- oh, there we go.
So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yep. Yeah.
Thick as molasses.
One of the first class action suits in Massachusetts history was filed by the families and people who were injured and probably people who lost horses. Again, so many horses. The company, U.S. IA, U.S. Industrial Alcohol, claimed that it was sabotage. They claimed that Italians who were mad that they had been making munitions with the ethanol bombed the tank. But-
Italy was a ally in World War One. Were they not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they were making molasses, not olive oil. Can I say
Supposedly,
that? Is that okay?
Well, there's this meme on the internet. It's that it's impossible to be racist towards Italians.
Yeah, like I feel, I'm good friends with one, so that basically absolves me. Isn't that how that works?
I mean, they've pretty much been on top or near the top through all of history, right?
Yeah, going back to our
Yeah.
old Rome thing.
Absolutely.
All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah. So that didn't work. There was a lot of because even though the tank wasn't like totally destroyed, so it turns out I don't know how many people knew this when they were just living next to this thing, but the guy who designed that tank was like a finance guy with the company, with no engineering experience. And there was no law in Boston at the time that an engineer had to like look at your plans and sign off on them. So the company was completely liable for what happened. They found out that the tank was about half as thick as it needed to be. It didn't have nearly enough rivets. It's probably a miracle that it lasted as long as it did. Probably what happened is when the warm molasses went in and started mixing with the cooler molasses, there was an expansion, also a little bit of fermentation, create some gas. That day, the temperature had swung from it was like 5 to 42 Fahrenheit or something like that. So it had gotten considerably warmer outside as well. All these factors played into it, but ultimately it was just extremely poorly designed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's not good.
So of course, a big company does, something like this, designs something so poorly, negligently. Someone's going to jail for this, right?
You would think.
Fuck no.
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 I'm not, to be honest, I'm not surprised. You would think they should, but it's yeah.
No, $300,000 in damages is what they paid in that time money, which
That's
is
a
$30 million.
pittance.
$30 million in today's bucks.
So they paid like a third of the. You said about 100.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that they wound up, and that's like compensating the victims. So of that money, I think only something like, I did look at the figures, so only part of it went to Boston, for as reparations for having, destroyed a sizable part of the city. Most of it went to the victims.
Huh.
So I think it was like $100,000 per. If we're talking like today's bucks, $100,000 per injured person, and then the deaths would probably be bigger, settlements. It's usually how it works today. I imagine it was roughly similar, but who knows?
Well, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, there's a park.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's a park there now.
Okay.
Yeah, which has some bocce ball or lawn bowling courts there, which I think is
at
kind
the site of the former
the Italian sabotage claim.
At the site of the
and
former
there's also
tank.
a plaque. Yeah.
Wow.
And there's also a plaque there to commemorate what happened. But that is the Great Molasses Flood of 1919.
Huh. Who knew? I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Well, that was very fascinating. I learned a lot today. I had no idea that there was a Boston Molasses Party.
No. No, it's not a party.
I mean,
one other thing is molasses got everywhere in the town after that, because anyone who went into like what would have been at that point the molasses district tracked it back, everywhere else in Boston.
There must have just been an ant explosion.
Probably.
Right? That's like think about the unintended consequences of that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have just the fattest rats ever, too.
Yeah.
But slow and wheezy, very diabetic.
A bunch of slow wheezy ants. If you get down and you really listen, you're like,
oh, that's fun. So, I guess, well, if that's it, that's it. But I do have Kev's closing fact of the day.
Oh, can't wait. Full of facts, this one.
Yeah, So, did you know? Did you know there are 27 bones in the human hand? But there's 28 if you're lonely. And that does it for our show. We're done.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.